Good evening. I am Jane Anderson Callahan, a member of the League of Women Voters Rochester. I would like to welcome all of you tonight, the candidates, the audience, and those viewing at a later time to this forum sponsored by the League of Women Voters Rochester. We'd also like to thank our generous partners of tonight's forum, the Rochester Post-Bulletin, the Rochester Area Chamber of Commerce, and the Rochester Public Library for their help. Due to the current pandemic, we are limiting attendees to the candidates and necessary volunteers. Guidelines for social distancing and the wearing of masks are also being followed. The League of Women Voters is a volunteer organization organized at the local, state, and national level to encourage citizens to participate in government. While we, as a league, do study and take stands on issues, we never endorse or support political parties or candidates. The views expressed in this forum are those of the candidates, not those of LWV Rochester or any partner or sponsor of this forum. And the sponsorship of the forum is not an endorsement of any candidate. It is our purpose in sponsoring this forum to provide you with an opportunity to hear candidates discuss face-to-face issues that are important to you. Tonight's questions have come from LWV Rochester, the Post-Bulletin, the Chamber of Commerce, and members of the public. If you would like to submit questions for a future forum, visit our Facebook page, League of Women Voters Rochester, Minnesota, for information. They must be submitted at least 48 hours in advance. As there is never enough time to cover all the issues in a limited time and setting such as this, please feel free to contact the candidates' campaign headquarters directly if your questions are not addressed tonight. We'd like to thank all candidates for running for office, for offering to serve their community, and for the enormous time, dedication, and commitment that running and serving demand. We encourage our members as individuals as we encourage each of you to get involved in your community and the political party of your choice. Welcome to tonight's forum, which features the candidates for Olmsted County District 5. Candidates for this seat are Regina Mustafa, Brian Morgan, and Jim Beer. Each candidate will have 2 minutes to offer an opening statement. The candidates will then respond in turn to questions provided by LWV Rochester, this evening's partners, and by the public, all of which were submitted in advance. Candidates will have 1 minute each to answer. The candidates will then have 2 minutes each to make a closing statement at the end of tonight's event. I would like to suggest to candidates that you make your answer as succinct as possible. It isn't necessary to use the entire minute for your answer, but please finish your sentence when your time is up. We would like to cover as many questions as possible. The timekeeper tonight is League of Women Voters Rochester member Anna Sanchez. Questions from the public were checked to ensure they follow our guidelines by LWV Rochester members Maggie Brimajoin, Jane Callahan, and Kathy Swessel. Asking questions will be Randy Peterson from the Post-Bulletin and Brent Ackerman from the Chamber of Commerce. Thank you. Candidate Regina Mustafa will begin with her opening statement.
Hello, everyone. I'm Regina Mustafa. Thank you for giving your time to be with us today. I've lived in Olmsted County for over 13 years with my husband who works at Mayo Clinic and our children who go to Rochester Public Schools. In 2019, I earned a Master's of Science degree from Winona State University in Human Services. I am currently finishing a licensure as an alcohol and drug addiction counselor and just completed internship with our local detox and outpatient treatment facility. Through my work in behavioral health, I know firsthand the importance of county services in our area. With my nonprofit work, I have dedicated years of my life to bringing diverse communities together. Amongst this work is a program called Rahma, which provides emergency financial assistance to local single mothers regardless of background, and ongoing peer support. This program has directly enabled mothers and their children to remain in their homes. It's also connected vulnerable adults, our vulnerable neighbors, with services provided by the county and nonprofits. My community engagements include appointments to local boards and commissions, including the Olmsted County Human Rights Commission, City of Rochester Ethical Practices Board, the Minnesota North Star chapter of the Sierra Club, and I currently serve as an appointed term to ROCOG, Rochester Olmsted Council of Governments. So much of the work I've done in our community has prepared me to serve as county commissioner. Over the years, I've gained the knowledge and understanding to ensure fair, transparent, and thoughtful decision-making. I welcome conversations with the community. I am and will be here to listen and understand the needs of my district. I know I am a stronger representative when I engage with those whose views and experiences are different than my own, and I am grateful to serve. Thank you.
Thank you. Second to speak is Brian Morgan.
Good evening. I'm Brian Morgan, and I'm running for Olmsted County Commissioner. I'm a husband. My wife is the reason we moved to this area 5 years ago. I'm a father to 2 young children. I'm on the RPU board. I've served the last 2.5 years as the president of that board. And most important to my platform in tonight's discussion, here and leader. My campaign is centered on the principle of continuous improvement, of doing more with less. I've spent my entire career finding new solutions, trying to find ways to make things better by using less and getting more out of it. Program, systems, equipment, people, you name it. Because things work better when we try harder and we really put the effort into getting a result out of a given program. It works in manufacturing, it works in business, and it can work in government. The concept's simple. You start with a problem, and you try to understand it. You research, you dive into it head first. You bring in all the stakeholders, you engage with those around you, and you look for creative and sometimes obvious solutions. It's less about your typical board decision, yay, aye or nay, yes or no, A or B. It's looking for option C, D, or E and finding it wherever it might lie. Now, to achieve this, I have 4 pillars of my campaign. They're engagement, collaboration, sustainability, and affordability. Collaboration is working with others. It's reaching across from one board to another. It's reaching out to the community. It's working together and being willing to change your mind as part of the process. Engaging with others is how you do that. You have to bring the community, you have to get to them, you have to get information to where they're at. And with engagement, you have to with sustainability, you have to be ready to look for a program that can stand on its own. If you do those things, affordability comes along for the ride. That's my platform, and I will spend my time tonight discussing in more detail how I believe we can achieve that.
Thank you. Speaking last, Jim Beer.
Good evening. My name is Jim Beer, and I am your county commissioner. Olmsted County is a diverse, fast-growing community. With the current COVID pandemic and many social issues facing us, it's time for proven, steady leadership. Provide such leadership. Throughout my tenure, I have fostered a cooperative atmosphere, whether it is with our largest city, Rochester, small cities, township, or the school districts. I've worked hard to heal divisions over annexation of rural lands, as well as facilitating orderly, sustainable growth. Though at times we disagree, we work hard to come to solutions that will work for everyone in the county, whether city, rural, or suburban. Our county is diverse, with Rochester providing a large employment base, while outlying areas provide living options as well as a network of excellent recreational opportunities. Some of my accomplishments are: 1, implementation of a drug court for low-risk offenders to offer a second chance while avoiding incarceration, which is both expensive and doesn't always lead to rehabilitation. 2, construction of the 3rd burner allows us to handle our waste in an environmental and sustainable way, providing steam and electricity to 27 different facilities. Olmsted County was in the district energy business long before it became fashionable. 3, in 2017, we began a pilot program to place a social worker with patrol officers. This has proven very successful. Our deputies support it, and it has proven to defuse situations for which a social worker is more properly trained. The County Commissioner's job is much more than meeting a couple times a month. We are on over 55 committees and subgroups that meet at various times. We spend an average of 35+ hours per week addressing citizens' concerns and studying issues. The job demands our full attention. Your county board studies the issues, engages in vigorous debate, makes decisions, and then moves on. We're there to do the work of government without a lot of fanfare. That's what my electorate expects from a well-functioning board. This is who I am. I'm proud of the work that I've accomplished for Olmsted County, and I look forward to your questions and debate. Thank you.
Thank you, and please stay there. You take the next question. This question is from the League of Women Voters. How do you plan to involve your constituents, the youth of the county, and neighborhood associations to inform your decision-making?
You know, we have a youth commission. I'd like to just start out with thanking our youth commission, Mary Gorfine. She's had that youth commission going and engaging our youth since I've been on the board, and she does a yeoman's job. She gets all those kids from the different high schools on some of our groups, on our Planning and Zoning, Board of Adjustment, Environmental Commission, ROCOG. There's one kid on every one of those meetings, and they are engaged. A lot of those kids have gone out to be successful pillars of the community. I think there was one that actually ran for a state office, but I can't remember his name right now off the top of my head. He was from Lourdes. How do we engage the community? We've got they have my website, they've got my email. I meet routinely with the groups, the neighborhood groups, and I think that probably, answers the question. I guess I won't go on any further.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Candidate Brian Morgan is next. I could repeat the question.
Thank you.
And feel free to ask it at any time, candidates. How do you plan to involve your constituents, the youth of the county, and neighborhood associations to inform your decision-making?
Well, it's a two-way street. Engagement is dialogue. It's listening to your constituents first and foremost, but it's also engaging with them and getting the information to the places they're already looking for it. Nobody wants to go to a county website to find the agenda. Social media provides a great avenue for reaching out and letting the residents of the county know what is going to happen before it's discussed. It's having meetings when people can attend them, looking at moving away from meetings at lunchtime and 3 in the afternoon when most people are working, giving them an opportunity for public comment by hosting them when they're not working. And lastly, it's about really, really, truly showing up consistently every single meeting, every single time. Thank you.
And now candidate Regina Mustafa.
Engaging with the youth and various communities throughout Olmsted County is something that I have already been doing for years. I have gone and spoken to members of the Olmsted County Youth Commission on several of occasions. They have partnered with me and even presented with me in some of my nonprofit work. One of their big issues is mental health with the Olmsted County Youth Commission, and that is another area that I address with my own nonprofit. The Olmsted County website needs to be completely redone so it is more engaging to youth and to various people across the district. Elected officials cannot expect youth and members from our community to drop everything they're doing and come to us. We need to go where you are, your parks, your neighborhoods, your businesses. So the relationships that I have already built for years across this district with people of all different backgrounds, I will take those networks, those relationships, and expand on them with this role as commissioner.
Thank you. The next question goes first to Brian Morgan, candidate Brian Morgan, and it comes from Brent Ackerman of the Chamber of Commerce.
All right, thank you very much. First of all, I'd like to say as part of the Chamber's longstanding commitment to civic engagement and encouraging voter participation, we are pleased to once again partner with the League of Women Voters, the Post Bulletin, and the Rochester Public Library to co-host tonight's candidate forum and the others this week. All right, my topic is economic relief and small business support. The county has recently taken steps to support local business and provide a measure of relief during the pandemic, including deferring property tax payments to December without penalties or interest. As a commissioner, what additional steps will you take to continue to support local business, strengthen the local economy, and provide additional relief?
Well, I'll start by saying that I think it's about more than masks. When you look at a lot of the small businesses, they've been hampered for the past 4 or 5 months, either forced into closure or reduced capacity or reduced ability to serve their customers and their clients. I think we have to look at how we go about as a county, either enabling them by providing funding or providing opportunities, different rules and regulations, or eliminating other rules and regulations. I like what the city did by allowing restaurants to move out into their streets to provide for additional seating in an outdoor environment. I think we need to look beyond the basic ideas and listen to the businesses. When they tell us what they need, be ready to support them.
Thank you. And now candidate Regina Mustafa.
Would you like the question again?
Sure.
Okay. As a commissioner, what additional steps will you take to continue to support local business, strengthen the local economy, and provide additional relief?
So Olmsted County, I believe, has taken a good step with this. We are already working with a pool of money that people from the county can apply for emergency financial assistance towards staying in their homes if they have been directly impacted by COVID. We need to work with our state partners to increase that amount of money. I believe they've received over 60 applications. Maybe only about 15 have been approved and processed. We need to make sure that we have the county staff and the woman power to make sure that these applications are processed in time. And we need to make sure that the county is doing everything it can to make sure that this pandemic is not getting worse. Are we taking it seriously enough? The more numbers of COVID cases that go up, the more this is going to impact our economy. I am interested in looking into a county-wide mask mandate to get ahead of this. And we have to also remember that behavioral health is closely tied to financial stability.
Thank you. Candidate Jim Beer. And Candidate Beer, you will be the first speaker of the next question, so just stay at the microphone.
I will. I was first the last time.
Yes, but
Okay.
first again for 2 more rounds.
All right. Okay. Can you repeat the question again?
As commissioner, what additional steps will you take to continue to support local business, strengthen the local economy, and provide additional relief?
Okay. Thanks for the shout out on the deferring of the penalty and interest on taxes to December 15th. We thought that was the first good step. Another step that we've taken as your county is our public health partner have partnered with businesses locally, and I can give you a couple examples afterwards because there's not enough time right now, but we've gotten numerous thank you notes where our health department has gone in and worked with these businesses where they've had a breakout of COVID, and we've worked with them, and they've implemented some of the practices that they may not have known about, and that allows them to get back into the business. Some of the other things we're doing, we're partnering with Ready right now with some of the CARES money to distribute to some of that and coming up with some formula that'll give some cash payments to certain businesses, but we're working with Ready right there. The other thing that I'm a big believer in, and I've done it since I've been on the county board, is when we set the levy, my goal is to always set the levy at an increase of no more than the inflation rate plus whatever we've had for growth in the county. That levels the playing field, and I think that keeps it fair for everybody. Thank you.
Thank you, and please stay at the microphone. So first candidate Jim Beer, and second will be candidate Brian Morgan. And this question comes from the Post Bulletin, Brent Ackerman.
Nope.
Randy Peterson. Randy Peterson. No problem.
Andy Peterson, excuse me.
Olmsted County Commissioners serve as members of the county's Housing and Redevelopment Authority. Should the county's HRA use a portion of its levy to establish a year-round homeless shelter in Rochester?
Well, I think we're moving in that direction. The one thing we want to remember with homeless, with all the Maxwell studies we've done, is when you have homeless people, it should be, you want to get them you want to have a good, safe place for them to stay, but it wants to be temporary. All of the professionals tell us it wants to be temporary. We really don't want to have a homeless shelter where that is where there is their permanent home. That being said, there are some people in certain conditions that may require that. We've recently purchased, or not purchased, we're going to rent the land at 151 North Broadway, and I believe that has 36 places for homeless people, and that's going to be an ongoing. So that, and then we are also have another facility, and I can't remember. I think that's going to also serve 14 people. The best thing we do with this homeless though is if we are going to have a chronic, throughout the year, is we need to partner with our other agencies, the City of Rochester, and our local nonprofits. One that's really been at the forefront is Catholic Charities. I got a lot more to say, but she's got the stop sign, so I'll put my mask on.
Thank you, Candidate Beer. Now, Candidate Morgan.
I think we've seen through the past 3 months where the county and city have partnered at Mayo Civic Center that there is a clear community need for this to be a year-round service. I believe it also needs to be one that partners with the existing programs in the county to look for as many ways as possible to get people the help they need. It's one thing to provide a single service for somebody who needs 5 services or 4 services. You give them that one and you don't treat the other 3. You don't get to the root cause of why they're there in the first place, and you create a situation where the person continues to be dependent on it. I also want to see programs that get people out of it, and it takes a comprehensive solution. You have to address the entire problem. Otherwise, you create a continual issue. You don't have a chance to spend the money on the next person that needs help. If we continue to bundle services and really address the whole issue that a person is dealing with, if you get to the root cause of why they're in that position, you have the chance to lift them out of the situation, spend the money on the next person that needs help, and create a program that is sustainable.
Thank you. Candidate Regina Mustafa. And Candidate Mustafa, stay at the microphone. You will be the first speaker for the next question.
Yes, 100 times over, we absolutely need to use that money for a permanent homeless shelter. The county also needs to continue until that day arrives. It's portion of the funding of the cooling, warming shelter, and that currently now resides at the Mayo Civic Center. As a alcohol and drug addiction counselor working in a medical detox facility, I have worked with numerous members of our community who are experiencing homelessness, who have been picked up from that same warming shelter. And it does not, these issues, it's not about homelessness. It is about trauma. It's about traumatic brain injuries. It's about mental illness. It's about lack of access to affordable health care. It's about stigma surrounding substance use and mental illness. We have to put as much money as we can, not only into whatever housing options that are out there, but also increase accessibility to behavioral health options provided by the county, especially for minority communities who are facing disparities in getting those services.
Please stay at the microphone. Yes. And Candidate Beer, you will be the second speaker. This question was submitted by members of the public. An Olmsted County Commissioner sits on the DMC, Destination Medical Center Board. What are the impacts of the DMC on Olmsted County residents and the strengths and weaknesses of the proposed projects?
I have been following the development of the DMC for quite some time and speaking to many people from across this county about their thoughts on the DMC as well. I think the DMC and what it proposes to bring to this community has a lot of promise. It's bringing jobs, it promises to boost our economy, but it is also proving to be very unaffordable for many people in our community, and many people feel that the DMC is a direct result in their not being able to afford to live in Rochester and moving out and out towards outside of the city. I believe we need to, the DMC board needs to really increase its efforts in communicating to the members of the public about these projects, especially to members of the minority communities. And I'm also very concerned that many of the DMC projects are leaving people of lower economic status and minority groups, people of color, out of the equation.
Thank you. Candidate Jim Beer, same question. Do you want it repeated? DMC, Destination Medical Center Board. What are the impacts of the DMC on Olmsted County residents and the strengths and weaknesses of the proposed projects?
Well, I'm the commissioner that sits on the board, obviously. You know, DMC is a great economic engine that helps provide jobs for people. It's a rising tide that's going to lift everybody. That being said, I think one thing that we need to work harder on with the DMC is to show the community members how it is good for them and how it's going to make their lives better. There's a feeling out there that it's just for our largest employer and for the people that come to that largest employer. That is not the case. It's for everybody in Rochester. Besides providing a number of jobs, new jobs year after year after year, it also is going to provide new entertainment, new venues and new things for people to do. So, but we need to communicate that better. I think we have been, the DMC board has been slightly lax in communicating in what is it in it for Olmsted County residents. That being said, there's a lot of people that would be very envious to have this type of structure going on in their city. Thank you.
Thank you. Candidate Brian Morgan. And when you've finished your answer, stay at the podium. You will be the first responder to the next one.
All right. This is a good problem to have. I spent 3 years in my 20s living in Saginaw, Michigan, and they had the exact opposite problem in which nobody wanted to invest anywhere in the city. And a lot of the same problems that we see DMC sometimes causing with disparities, the haves and have-nots, in Saginaw almost everybody was a have-not. I can promise you this is a great opportunity for the city and the county, but we've got to get it right. And we've got to find a way to diversify the economy a bit, because as we continue to double down with efforts like DMC, we become more and more of a company town, and as Mayo goes, so goes Rochester, so goes Olmsted County. If the money isn't spent to continue to broaden our horizons, if companies aren't continuing to invest here outside of Mayo, we saw it at the beginning of the pandemic. The wage cuts, the furloughs, that had an immediate screeching impact on our entire economy. That has the potential to derail DMC entirely. If we diversify, we have an opportunity to take that money, invest it in a way that really broadens things and promises greater prosperity and more resiliency for all of us.
Thank you, candidate. Please stay at the microphone. There we go. I'll keep helping. And our next question, we go back to the chamber and Brent Ackerman.
All right, this topic is about the budget. With the pandemic creating significant revenue challenges for the county, what will your budget priorities be moving forward, and how will you balance the need to provide services with the reality of less revenue?
Well, I think short term, the county has a lot of options. At RPU, we're looking at deferring maintenance, slowing down capital projects. There's a lot you can do to stem the bleeding in the short term. But as we get towards the end of this year, if this pandemic isn't under control, harder decisions are going to have to be made. And that's where I want to go back to my pillar of collaboration. There are so many services duplicated between the county and the city, a number of which are recent developments. You look at the planning and zoning departments between the city and county. That's now 2 departments. That's money the city's spending, it's money the county's spending that used to work better together. I look at things that are more historic, like 911. There's, again, an issue between the city and county. If we can work together with the city of Rochester, because they're facing the same problem, we can do this without raising taxes.
Thank you. Candidate Regina Mustafa will speak next.
The results of the 2019 Olmsted County Community Health Needs Assessment clearly showed where we need to prioritize spending. So it showed the top 3 priorities: mental health, financial stress, and substance use. And again, these things are so intertwined. I just got off the phone today with a woman that I've been helping with my nonprofit, and she just left the women's shelter, and she was in a hotel room begging me to talk to her because she wants to start drinking alcohol when she's been trying to abstain because of her rising anxiety over getting coronavirus. The priority of the county needs to be towards helping with these COVID relief funds and prioritizing funds and resources for people experiencing mental health and substance use, because people relapsing, lapsing, overdosing, they are crippling through Rochester, I talk with through Rochester and all of Minnesota. Thanks.
Candidate. And now for candidate Jim Beer. And please stay at the microphone for the next question.
Could you repeat that?
Absolutely. With the pandemic creating significant revenue challenges for the county, what will your budget priorities be moving forward, and how will you balance the need to provide services with the reality of less revenue?
Well, we just had our retreat the other day, and I'm committed to having a 0% levy increase, so I don't know if that's public information, but that's where I stand on that. Where are our priorities going to be? Priorities going to be in COVID relief with our public health. Our priorities are going to be putting more social workers. We've already started implementing that's been so successful to get more social workers with the deputies to defuse some of these situations. It's worked very well, and I think we're getting a lot more positive outcomes. I think Brian's right. We need to work more with the city of Rochester. I welcome if the city wants to come back and talk about consolidated planning and zoning. The county we were ready to not split. Same with the 911. Any of these services at the city of Rochester, or any of the small cities or the townships, I mean, they have their cooperative planning. Any of these things we can do. You're right, it's a duplication of services. However, under state law, the county is obligated to serve all of the county. So, if people want to partner with us, that would be good. Sorry.
Please stay at the microphone. And the next question, which goes to candidate Jim Beer first, and then I should say candidate Brian Morgan second, comes from Randy Peterson of the Rochester Post-Bulletin.
The county recently purchased the former Seneca Foods site. What do you see as the best potential use for that property?
Well, we purchased that with the idea of the Southern Transportation Hub. There's been a little hiccup here and there with the funding for whether we're going to have the Western and the Southern. The city is the lead agency on that, and the city has decided that, after consultation, that they thought it was too big a project, so they're just going to put in for the federal money right now, the Western out at Shorewood. So, but I think that's the ultimate use right there, is still a transportation hub. We're willing to work with the city, and again, we just have to have these continuing discussions. We thought that we would be in on that letter so that we could put the demolition of the plant in on that letter and possibly get some federal funding. However, since that's not being included in the letter, we're going to go ahead and we're moving ahead with demolition of that. Once we have a nice flat area out there, I think the people will see the possibilities out there, and we'll work with our partners in the city and the Mayo to have a transportation hub out there. Thank you.
Thank you. Oh, you can stay at the microphone.
No, you just asked me. That's a new question.
Oh, that's the new question. Oh, I didn't mark it off. So next is Brian Morgan.
Could you repeat the question, please?
Sure. The county recently purchased the former Seneca Foods site. What do you see as the best potential use for that property?
Well, we are facing a major budget shortfall potentially this year, potentially into next year. I would be very open to selling it. I'm actually a little confused as to why it was purchased in the first place. At RPU, one of the things that we've done with a lot of our land investments, when we go out to purchase a property, everything is squared away. By the time we're going and actually signing the deed, paying the money for that property, everything's lined up. And we saw that completely fall apart with the city, county, DMC, and now we're sitting on a property that doesn't have any direct use or benefit. It doesn't fit the mission statement for the county. And Graham Park already has a redevelopment plan. There's already a lot that can go on there. I don't see the value in having an extra property next door.
Thank you. Candidate Regina Mustafa.
I don't agree with the county's purchase of the Seneca property, mainly because I don't agree with spending millions of dollars on something that you didn't have a plan for. I don't know what I would say to my constituents living in Byron, why they have to pay their taxpayer dollars for something in near downtown Rochester, for which we don't have a plan. And also especially because there was no public feedback from the communities to get their opinion about this potential purchase. There was no public feedback whatsoever from the commissioners before they made this decision. So I would look into all options, including selling, if that were the best solution for this property. I would have to explore that. The top priority is getting public feedback before a major county purchase.
Thank you. Mustafa says no. I'm going to give 20 seconds to each candidate, all three of you, so whatever he brings up as a new topic on this issue of the Seneca property, both you and candidate Morgan will be able to speak again. So I'm allowing a rebuttal. You first, 20 seconds. We'll go in the order that it was answered in the first place. First candidate Beer, then candidate Morgan, and then candidate Mustafa.
Well, you know, when you're on the DMC board and you have a, we were working on a transportation hub, and we were working closely with the city. And when that was an excellent place. It's 12 acres of a transportation hub. In addition, it is part of the Grand Master Plan. If you look at the Grand Master Plan, it is part of the Grand Master Plan. To say that we don't have a plan and didn't have a plan is not true. Thank you.
Candidate Morgan.
It's now part of a master plan because the original plan fell through. And again, I look at the value of that property to a developer, and I look at Olmsted County's mission. We're not land speculators. The taxpayers shouldn't have to be put under that burden. I'd like to see something done different with it.
Thank you. Candidate Mustafa.
The county originally hoped that the Seneca property would be able to be connected to the bus rapid transit, but it can't, not with its location. It's not going to work. And I'll echo what I said again. I don't see justifying spending millions of taxpayer dollars without direct public feedback.
Thank you. And stay at the microphone. The next question comes to you first, and it is from the public. This is a question on redistricting. In early 2021, after the census is complete, the county and other local units must redistrict. Currently, 3 of the 7 Olmsted County districts have citizens who live outside of the city of Rochester. The city itself contains 70 to 80% of the county's population. Should the county's redistricting effort result in more county districts totally contained within the city of Rochester?
Yes, I believe that it should be redistricted in a more fair manner that gives just representation to the people living throughout Olmsted County, and if that means more districts, more commissioners, and yeah, so be it.
Thank you. And the next speaker is Jim Beer.
I've been through 2 redistrictings. I'm one of those supposedly rural districts. 76% of my district's in the city of Rochester. Last time I ran unopposed. I think that I've represented the city of Rochester, the city of Byron, and my rural constituents very well. I don't think if I have, I'd be out on my ear. I've done this a long time. And for anybody that says that we district unfairly, the way we've done it in the past is we turn the maps over to our planning director. In the past it was Phil Wheeler. This year or next year it'll be Ben Griffin. And we tell them to come up with 4 or 5 different plans. And they know all the economic and social issues that need to be balanced with that. And then they come back to us with 4 or 5 plans and we pick one. I think that's the fairest way to do it. And I think we've been well representative. To concentrate, we have a Rochester City Council and they do a good job. We have a Byron City Council and they do a good job. Our job is to represent all of Olmsted County.
Thank you. Candidate Brian Morgan. And candidate, stay at the microphone. You will be first next on the next question.
All right. I would be very wary of having too many county commissioners. 7's a good number, 9 you can live with, but the more commissioners you have, the more voices you bring to the table. That can be a good thing, but the more it dilutes the vote, and I think the more that it removes some of that representation as well. In terms of adjusting where the districts lie, I'm open to it. I think they should match demographics. I think they should match voter interests. I have a lot of close connections in Byron. I live in Northwest Rochester. I have seen a lot of differences between those two, and I've seen similarities. I certainly feel I could represent both, but there are things that matter to Byronites that don't matter to Rochester people. And there are reasons that people move to Byron. Oftentimes they have a slightly different set of priorities. So if it means moving things around, shifting it, I'm absolutely open to it.
Thank you. The next question, also from the public, is an intergovernmental question. Candidate Brian Morgan will speak first. I'm sorry, I didn't see you. Head back. To meet residents' needs and have efficient public services, Olmsted County needs to coordinate with the City of Rochester and other local governments as well on many issues. What will you do to improve the relationship between the county and the City of Rochester?
Excellent question and a core piece of my platform. I think that it starts by listening and bringing everyone to the table and calling out the issues that have historically been part of the problem. It's bringing new voices into that discussion. If you bring the same people to the table time and time again, you're probably going to get the same result. You bring new voices in, people who are willing to listen, look for a shared benefit. The areas where the city and county overlap, that's where the city and county should be focusing their collaboration. There are going to be things the county has to care about that the City of Rochester doesn't. We serve a larger area. But there's no reason with 75% of our population inside the city limits of Rochester that we should be ignoring or tuning them out. I have a lot of relationships on the city council. I have a lot of relationships in the community. And above all, I'm willing to listen and I'm willing to change my mind.
Thank you. Candidate Regina Mustafa is the next speaker. Shall I repeat the question?
No,
Thank you.
I've made strong contacts and relationships with the county and with the city. I've been on both county commissions and city boards and commissions, and I absolutely see the need for county and city to work more closely together. And I couldn't agree more that we need to stop bringing the same people to the table. And we need to bring some different voices to the table. And that not only includes our elected officials, but also the people who sit on the boards and commissions amongst the city and the county. And if we diversify the people who sit on boards and commissions on the county and the city, we may have a better, strong working relationship. Again, it's bringing those different voices. The county and the city function slightly differently in terms of its obligations, but the well-being of the community, especially how the city and the county want to continue with how it's going to face the homelessness issue, it's crucial, and especially with COVID-19, it's crucial that we have a stronger relationship amongst government entities.
Thank you. Candidate Jim Beer.
Yeah, I think, a lot of times it makes good press for saying how the city and the county doesn't get along. In actuality, we get along great. I mean, we get along well. Are there bumps? There's always bumps whenever you have. It's like brothers and sisters fighting. But you look at our public works department, they work well together. We buy different pieces of equipment and we share them between them. The homeless issue, we've worked well with the city. And first we had the homeless shelter across the street from the government center, and then we had it at the Mayo Civic Center. The sheriffs working with the police department, they work hand in glove together. There's a lot of things that we do together well. Are there problems? There's always some discussion, but like I say, a lot of that stuff sells newspapers. Sorry, Randy, but controversy sells newspapers. Can we work better? Sure, we can work better. But if we just keep the dialogue together, it always seems to work. One of the core things I did when I was first on, the city and the county and the townships were fighting over annexation. I was the one that drew up a orderly annexation agreement. We still use it today, 20 years later. And so I think we can get along. Thank you. Oh, I'm up this time.
And this is the last question from the public, and then we will move to closing statements. Candidate Brian Morgan will be second, candidate Regina Mustafa third. And the question is, do you think the county board should take a stronger position advocating the wearing of masks in public places?
You know, I think I would rather see a state mandate. I think having patchwork, you know, I'd rather see a federal mandate. Barring, I don't think that's going to happen. I'd rather see a state mandate. Otherwise, we have a patchwork quilt. And it's hard to enforce. But let me just say, you know, this wearing masks, where did it become political? You know, we're supposed to try to be nice to people. I mean, if you care about somebody and somebody wants you to wear a mask, wear the damn mask. I mean, what's the big issue here? We're all trying to be healthy. We're not trying to make some political statement. Just wear the mask. It's really not that big a deal. And you might save somebody. You might save your grandma. You might save your kid. There was just a 4-month-old kid that died from COVID. Yeah, I just don't get it. I'm befuddled by it. But should we have a county? No, I'd rather see the state do it. But again, the big take-home message is here, just wear the damn thing. Thank you.
Candidate Brian Morgan is next.
I think that masks are a fantastic opportunity to corral the coronavirus. If the county is going to put in a mandate, there's a good chance the state will look and listen the way they did with Tobacco 21. Olmsted County put it together, the state legislature followed suit. They told Olmsted County staff ahead of time that if it passed in the county, they would take it seriously at the state. I suspect it would be the same with masks, but we have to be smart about masks. Saying they have to be used everywhere, saying there's absolutely no ifs, ands, or buts about it doesn't make a world of sense. There are plenty of opportunities where it isn't required and people can still continue to wear it where it's prudent. I think in outdoor environments, as the city has said, that works. In certain sporting and gym environments, I think it works. The key is making sure that we're looking beyond just a mask, and as new information comes in, continuing to update the policies so that we use the best information to make the best decisions in the least restrictive manner. In the short term, masks make a lot of sense, but we have to look beyond just that.
Thank you. Candidate Regina Mustafa.
Yes, I believe that the county should be making a stronger stance towards the wearing of masks. I believe that the Olmsted County Public Health Director, I believe he has, from the get-go, been doing a very great job in making public his stance on masks and how they're vital. I do wish, though, that there would be stronger positions by other officials at the county level and using their voices to encourage, before the city pass its citywide mask ordinance. I don't believe that we should wait around for the state to pass this mask mandate. We need to do it now with whatever authority we can, and how we're going to enforce it. Yes, we have to discuss that as well, but it starts with a county-wide mask mandate. So many people from across this county come into Rochester, go out of Rochester for work. If we are going to be smart, the county needs to initiate a mask mandate now.
Concludes the questions portion of our forum. We will now hear the closing statements from each candidate. Candidates, you now have 2 minutes to speak, and by random drawing, candidate Brian Morgan will speak first, candidate Jim Beer second, and candidate Regina Mustafa third. So I call on candidate Morgan.
Thank you. To the League of Women Voters, to the Chamber of Commerce, to the Post Bulletin, and of course to our host, the Rochester Public Library, thank you for having us here. It's hard to get our names out there. It's hard to get our word and our message out as politicians and aspiring politicians in a world in which door knocking is almost becoming taboo. I've laid out my campaign. Hopefully I've helped everybody get to know where I stand on a number of policies. So I want to take an opportunity in closing to get to know something about me. It's a story about my dad. He's my role model. I've talked about him a little bit before, and what he's taught me is the root of my campaign. See, he dropped out of college at 21, moved in with my mom. They didn't have a whole lot to work with. Took a job as an apprentice in the electrical union, the IBEW. Worked his butt off, became a journeyman, became a foreman. But he did more than work hard. He worked smart. He found new ways to try the same old problem. He developed new tools for hanging pipes. He found ways by studying blueprints to get the work done faster. That led to him being a project manager, and it continued his career ascent. When he did that, though, he didn't just better himself. He began giving back. He started reaching out, teaching apprenticeship classes, working with the next generation of electricians. And as a project manager, it was no longer about what he did, it was about what his team did. It's very, very crucial for success in life to be able to collaborate with others, to work with others, and to trust others. Eventually, he became the vice president of that firm, and he joined the apprenticeship board. He started working more with young people, getting them into the trades at a time when it was unpopular to do so. He voluntold me to start working for him, put me under his hardest driving foreman, and worked me into the ground to teach me the value of hard work, as if I hadn't already seen it from him. But he also taught me the value of smart work. He ensured I went through college, and he always told me to try new things, never be afraid to take a risk, and that hard work matters, smart work matters more, and none of it matters if you don't work with others and try to bring them along for the ride. Thank you.
Thank you. Candidate Jim Beer.
I'd like to thank the League of Women Voters for sponsoring this debate. It's been a pleasure to share my views of Olmsted County. Why am I the right candidate? I'm a proven leader. When we faced the housing crisis in 2008, I worked hard to find solutions to ease that burden. We couldn't stop all the pain, but we did our best to provide help where needed. In today's climate with COVID, social unrest, and increasing homelessness, Olmsted has stepped up to the challenge. Our public health department has done outstanding work. The state of Minnesota has even relied on our expertise. We've worked closely with Mayo and Olmsted Medical to provide testing and contact tracing in our county. We are held as an example of steady and consistent information. Implementation of embedding social workers with law enforcement in 2017 has been highly successful in de-escalation of situations that in the past may have spiraled out of control. It's been so successful that we've expanded it. We've worked closely with the city on the homeless issue. Though this issue is not completely solved, we are heading in the right direction, partnering with the city as well, those in the nonprofit sector such as Catholic Charities. We need to continue to improve our transportation infrastructure. Whether it's autos, buses, bicycles, or pedestrians, all are important and will be part of the future plans. Though we have encountered a hiccup on the South Transportation Hub at Seneca, I'm confident that working with our partners, a solution will be reached. We need to provide a full spectrum of housing options. That's why I voted to increase the HRA levy to allow the county to work with the agencies, such as Center City Housing, to help leverage those dollars to provide more bang for the buck. I've tried hard to make your county a better place. Whether it's the 76% of my district in Rochester, the people in the city of Byron, or the rural folks I represent, I'm proud of my record. Though you may not agree with me on every single issue, I hope you agree I'm working to make Olmsted a great place to work and live. I'm Jim Beer. I'm the right person at the right time in the right place to continue to serve as your commissioner. More information can be found on my website at reelectjimbeer.com. Please remember to exercise your vote on August 11th. Thank you.
Thank you. Candidate Regina Mustafa.
Thank you, everyone here, for organizing tonight's event, and thank you to everyone who's taken the time to listen to us this evening. I'm a mother. I'm a wife, and I share the same concerns, fears as so many of us throughout this county. I will not forget the conversation that I had with a fellow licensed alcohol and drug counselor who works in the Byron school system, and she said to me over the phone shortly after George Floyd was murdered that her students are in desperate need of increased funding for counselors in the Byron schools, especially her students of color, who are facing increased anxiety and fear on top of their already mental health issues. And that inspired me to run for this seat. I have a proven track record of working with people from all different walks of life for years. These are not things I just started doing during the campaign. I work better when I work with different people's, when I work with other people's ideas. And there are so many things that the county is moving in the right direction. But there are so many things that we need different, bold leadership in this seat to achieve, including a plan to increase staffing at the county level of people of color and to retain them. As clinicians, we are taught that the best treatment outcome, the best element for positive treatment outcomes is how you see yourself in your clinician. Olmsted County, we need to have elected officials whom the community members can see themselves reflected in their elected officials. It is time for different voices, different points of view, so that everybody can feel that they are welcomed with the decisions being made in Olmsted County. Please go to my website, mustafaforolmsted.com, to learn more. Thank you.
Thank you, candidates. This completes our candidate forum. I would like to thank each of the candidates for participating in tonight's forum. Thank you for your service to the community and for your willingness to participate in the democratic process by running for office. I would like to remind you, the viewers, that the views expressed in the forum tonight were those of the candidates, not those of LWV Rochester or any partner or sponsor of the forum. Thanks to our partners, the Rochester Area Chamber of Commerce, the Rochester Post-Bulletin, and the Rochester Public Library. Remember that Election Day is August 11th and that early voting has already started. If you have voted by absentee ballot and would like to change your ballot based on what you learned tonight, visit minvotes.org, MNVOTES.org, for more information on that process. Please remember to vote. If you have a question about your polling place or you would like to see your sample ballot, visit vote411.org, VOTE411.org. To see this forum again, access the forums from the Rochester Public Library website. Good night, everybody.